If you'd have told me, so you picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening.
Everything was already tense in Cleveland, but then the owner decided to stir the pot without any pressure to do so. No one asked him, no one forced the conversation, but somehow he made it a point to tell the media that selecting Shedeur Sanders wasn't his idea. It was clear he wanted distance, to create a line between himself and the young quarterback. This wasn't just an off-the-cuff remark. It was deliberate, strategic, and sent a message louder than he probably intended. When an owner steps up and removes himself from responsibility, especially months after the draft, it doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't come off as clarification, it reads as rejection. And the fact that it came from someone who's overseen over 30 different quarterbacks in the past 2 decades only makes the message more loaded. It feels like the organization is speaking through silence, withholding opportunity while whispering doubt into the ears of fans and players alike. It wasn't the first time the tension had been felt either. Every week, there's another subtle jab, limited reps, quiet dismissals, vague statements. All of it begins to look like a pattern, one that doesn't support, but rather isolates, one that chips away at a player trying to find his place in a league that isn't known for patience. The quarterback room is crowded, and yet somehow, Shedeur feels like the only one under this particular spotlight. But even in all this, his composure stands out. He doesn't lash out, doesn't protest, doesn't even engage publicly. He just keeps working. The reports show it: his presence in the community, his performance at practice, the way he carries himself even when the odds feel stacked. It's not easy staying grounded in that kind of environment, but somehow he makes it look natural. There's clarity in his actions even when there's chaos all around. He knows he's getting fewer snaps. That's obvious. The public knows it too. Yet he still shows up, still participates, still pushes. There's something quiet but undeniable about the way he moves, focused, present, and unwilling to let these internal politics define his trajectory. And through all of that, you get the sense that he's not just playing football, he's proving something deeper, not just to others, but maybe to himself too. The organization may have its own reasons for the way it's handling things, but the public sees through the fog. The owner's comments came months after the draft, months too late to feel like casual conversation. The message was sent loud and clear. He wasn't my pick, but why say it at all? Why make that separation known when it serves no strategic purpose? The answer seems simple: control. It's a tactic, one meant to shake the foundation beneath Shedeur's feet. And yet, despite all of this, the belief remains strong that when game time comes, the work he's putting in will speak louder than any executive's cold shoulder. The field doesn't care who vouched for you in the draft room. It cares about results. And from the early looks, the talent is there, the discipline is there, the hunger is alive. There's a reason people keep bringing up the past, because context matters. 35 quarterbacks under this current ownership regime, and still no long-term solution. So why throw shade at the one who might just have something different, the one who didn't come through the usual channels, but brings something intangible the others lacked? It's ironic, almost poetic. The one guy they didn't want might be the one they needed all along. What's happening in Cleveland isn't new. Teams have done this before: drafted someone they weren't fully behind, then made it harder for that player to succeed. It's a power game. Keep the leash short, the reps minimal, and when performance dips, if it ever does, it becomes justification. But Shedeur isn't biting. He's sticking to the grind, letting the critics bark while he builds. And when the fans finally see him under the lights, when the crowd gets its first real look during preseason, all that manipulation will fade into the background. The noise only works until reality steps in. If he balls out, the crowd will turn. The chants will start. The pressure won't be on him, it'll be on the people who tried to sideline him. There's something else that complicates all this. Shedeur's situation isn't just professional, it's personal. His father, Deion, has been dealing with serious health issues. That adds a weight no one else in that locker room understands. And yet, there's no public complaint from him, no interviews begging for attention or sympathy. He's handling it all privately, quietly, and with a level of maturity that's rare. Growing up with Deion as your father means expectations were always going to be sky high. And playing for him most of your life adds another layer of complexity. Now, being in the NFL, away from that safety net, Shedeur is standing on his own. It's trial by fire, but that's what makes his calmness so impressive. He's not rattled, not publicly, not on the field. This isn't just a story about a rookie quarterback. It's about resilience in the face of subtle sabotage, about holding your ground when your own team might not have your back. about navigating politics that have little to do with performance and everything to do with perception. It's about showing up anyway, because no matter how many reps he gets or doesn't get, there's still time. As long as he's in the building, he's in the conversation. The longer he stays, the more inevitable it becomes that someone will notice. All it takes is one play, one practice highlight, one opportunity where the depth chart doesn't matter and the ball ends up in his hands. There's no guarantee how this ends. Maybe he makes the roster, maybe he's stashed on the practice squad, or maybe another team scoops him up. But what's certain is that he's being tested right now, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. And he's not folding. That's the part that often goes overlooked in professional sports, the psychological warfare, the silent tactics teams use to break a player's rhythm before they ever see the field. And yet, Shedeur walks into the building every day with his head held high, knowing he's got something to prove. And maybe that's the very thing the organization fears. Not that he'll fail, but that he'll succeed, that he'll outperform expectations and flip the script on the narrative they tried to write for him. That's what makes the situation so compelling. It's not just about talent, it's about control. And it's slipping. Every eye is on Cleveland now, not because they've earned it, but because they've made it impossible to look away. The drama, the tension, the veiled comments, it's all part of a bigger storm, but storms don't last forever. And when the clouds part, the truth comes out. In this case, the truth might just wear number 5. No matter how many headlines come out, no matter how many decision makers try to distance themselves, the reality on the field doesn't change. Football doesn't play favorites. It rewards preparation, timing, and hunger. And the hunger Shedeur has shown, despite every roadblock, says more than any press conference ever could. There's something to be said about being the underdog, even when your last name carries weight. Expectations come fast when you're a Sanders. But what's been happening in Cleveland shows the name doesn't get you favoritism, it just puts a bigger target on your back. And right now, all arrows seem to be pointing in one direction. Still, Shedeur's presence hasn't wavered. When he's out there on the field, it's not about legacy, it's about earning his place. It's about proving he belongs, not because of where he came from, but because of what he's doing right now. Each snap is a silent statement. Every throw is a chance to disrupt the narrative being built around him. There's a certain edge to this situation that makes it feel personal. Like it's not just about evaluating talent, it's about testing limits, seeing how much he can take, how much silence he can endure, how many reps he's willing to wait through. And if that was the goal, then they're watching the wrong guy, because Shedeur isn't flinching. Even players who've made it big will tell you the hardest part wasn't always the competition, it was the waiting. The days when you're grinding and no one's watching, when decisions are made in closed-door meetings and you're left wondering where you stand. Shedeur is living in that space right now, and he's still finding ways to shine. It's not lost on anyone that this might be the first coach Shedeur's had that isn't his father. That alone shifts the emotional weight. Every rep, every play, every coaching critique, it's all new terrain. No comfort blanket, no shared DNA in the decision-making room, just Shedeur and his will to break through. What makes this situation even more complex is that the path forward isn't clear. The Browns already have quarterbacks with experience, names that fans recognize, and contracts that speak louder than a fifth-round pick's resume. So Shedeur is operating in the shadows, learning, adjusting, and waiting for an opportunity that may never be handed to him. But that's the thing about pressure. It either cracks you or sharpens you. From what we've seen, Shedeur is getting sharper by the day. He's not complaining, he's not posting, he's not creating drama. He's doing the one thing people didn't expect. He's staying quiet and putting in work. And that's what makes it dangerous for everyone trying to hold him back. There's a rhythm to training camp, and he's falling into it. Whether it's reps with the 2s, 3s, or the occasional snap with the 1s, he's using every second like it matters, because it does. Because someone is always watching, even if they're not saying anything yet. Because one moment can change everything, and when that moment comes, it won't be a press release that shifts the conversation. It'll be a touchdown, a perfectly timed throw, a read that beats the defense before the snap even happens. Those are the things that build trust, that override politics, that make the doubters stay quiet for once. What Shedeur is dealing with isn't rare, but the way he's handling it is. Many young players in his position would fold. They'd act out, they'd let the frustration show, but not him. He's keeping his poise, and that says just as much about him as his talent ever will. This is the part of the story most people don't see, the part before the breakout, the The part where your name doesn't carry you, your draft slot doesn't protect you, and the only thing you can lean on is the work. Shedeur is leaning in hard, and while others might try to frame him as an afterthought, he's moving like a future starter. It's always easier to support someone after they've made it. But right now, Shedeur doesn't need praise. He needs consistency. He needs a fair shot. And even if he doesn't get it in Cleveland, he's proving he can hold his own. That kind of energy doesn't go unnoticed forever. So the question becomes, how long can they keep him on the sidelines? How long can they justify giving reps to veterans when the younger guy looks ready? Because if Shedeur gets into a game and does what many expect him to do, the conversation flips instantly. It's no longer about where he was drafted, it's about what he's doing today. That's the beauty of football. All the talking, all the politics, all the agendas, they go silent when the play clock starts. And if Shedeur gets his chance, he's going to remind a lot of people why he was even in the conversation in the first place. What's happening now may not be fair, but it's not the end. These are the chapters people skip past when they read success stories. But without this part, the struggle, the quiet grind, there is no triumph. So Shedeur keeps showing up, keeps waiting, keeps sharpening, because eventually, someone's going to notice what Cleveland is trying to hide. And when they do, they'll get a quarterback who didn't fold under pressure, who didn't crumble under a lack of support. They'll get someone who thrived in spite of the silence. That's the kind of player teams dream about. And right now, Cleveland is treating him like a placeholder. But placeholders don't put in work like this. They don't show this kind of poise. They don't draw fans before they even start. That's not a placeholder, that's a threat. And maybe that's why the tension exists. Because deep down, they know the spotlight's coming, and they're not ready for what happens when it lands on him. When the moment finally comes, it won't need a dramatic announcement. It won't need spin or framing or any headline. It will happen quietly. In a blink, Shedeur Sanders, walking onto the field with the weight of silence behind him, and nothing but execution ahead. That's how careers are made in this league. Not through hype, not through politics, but through the one thing that can't be ignored, production. And if his past is any indicator, Shedeur doesn't just show up. He takes over. He adapts fast. He learns faster. And when the lights hit, he plays like he's been there before because he has. All of this noise, the cold ownership, the lack of reps, the public distancing, it's creating a pressure cooker. But not all pressure breaks players. Some players absorb it, convert it, use it as fuel. What makes this story so compelling is that no one in the building has publicly questioned his talent. They've only questioned his fit, his role, his presence. And that tells you everything. Because when ability isn't the concern, and you're still being minimized, it becomes a story of control, not competition, of hierarchy, not merit. And when a player like Shedeur continues to grind through that without theatrics, without complaints, it says more than any box score ever will. There's something else that makes this moment stand out. The fans are already aware. They're watching. Social media is buzzing. The clips are circulating. The questions are starting to form. Why isn't he getting more reps? Why the delay? Why the public denial from the top? These are no longer whispers. They're headlines waiting to happen. And when those chants start rolling in from the stands, when the crowd sees what he can do and responds, that's when the tide shifts. Not because management approves, but because momentum does. And momentum in football is harder to stop than any scheme. They can rotate him out of the spotlight. They can limit the snaps. But if he keeps stacking good days, even behind the scenes, someone's going to want answers. Not just in Cleveland, but across the league. Because quarterback depth is gold. And poised, mature, athletic quarterbacks don't just get ignored forever. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being undeniable. Shedeur is walking that line right now, not drawing attention for attention's sake, but letting the work build its own echo. That kind of confidence is dangerous in the best way. And maybe that's what this whole thing is about. Maybe the people calling the shots see something in him that makes them uneasy. Not because he's unprepared, but because he's too prepared, too polished, too professional. The kind of guy who doesn't wait his turn quietly forever. The truth is, they can't afford to mishandle this. Not after all the instability they've endured at quarterback for decades. Not with this much talent sitting right there in the building. The margin for error is thin, and the cost of letting a star walk away is too high, especially when the signs were there the whole time. Because if Shedeur does get waived or pushed to the practice squad and another team scoops him up and he shines, the questions won't just be about the pick. They'll be about the judgment, the culture, the leadership. That's the risk they're taking right now, every time they overlook what's happening on that practice field. And yet, he's not waiting for them to come around. He's acting like he's already made it, carrying himself like a professional, staying focused, even while the decisions being made made around him feel rooted in something other than football. There's something unshakable in his presence, like he's already mapped this all out in his head, like he knew this moment would come, the resistance, the slow burn, the uphill battle. But he still chose to walk right into it because he believes in what he brings. And sometimes that's what defines the ones who last. Not just skill, but endurance. Not just highlights, but how you handle being benched, dismissed, or underestimated. And right now, Shedeur is putting on a masterclass in how to move with dignity through a situation designed to rattle him. So what happens next? Maybe he finally gets some run in the preseason. Maybe an injury opens the door. Maybe another team makes the call and brings him in. However it plays out, the point is, he'll be ready. Because that's how he's been moving all along. Not playing catch-up, staying ahead of the moment. The league has a funny way of revealing who's built for it and who isn't. You can't fake poise. You can't pretend to be prepared when you're not. But you also can't hide preparation forever. Sooner or later, it shows. And when it does, it won't be because someone vouched for him. It won't be because of a flashy draft night story. It'll be because of this, because of the way he's handled the cold stares, the silence, the resistance, and kept working. That's the real story unfolding in Cleveland. It's not just about a fifth-round pick. It's about a young quarterback walking straight into a storm with his chin up and his purpose locked in. No matter what's thrown at him, limited reps, public shade, or organizational politics, he keeps showing up. And maybe the people around him don't realize it yet, but that's what makes a winner. Not where you start, but how you show up when no one's cheering. And in this case, when the cheers do come, and it'll be earned, every single snap of it.